That was excellent. Thank you, everybody. Good morning, and welcome to First Parish, Unitarian Universalist, Canton. I'm John Donovan, and I will be your worship associate this morning. I'm joined this morning by our minister, Reverend Dr. Clyde Grubbs, and our ministerial intern, Elizabeth Foster. First Parish, Unitarian Universalist, Canton honors diversity and joyfully welcomes all who share the values and principles of our congregation. As a member of our Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, we are guided by the following principles. We believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We believe in justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. We believe in the acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. We believe in a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We believe in the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and society at large. We believe in the goal of the world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And we believe in the respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. I want to welcome everyone on Zoom as well this morning. If you're visiting us for the first time on Zoom, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, and our Zoom associate will provide you with any information that you need. We're glad that you've chosen to worship with us today, either here in person or online through Zoom. We hope you find your time with us to be meaningful.
It is a time of darkness, the time of the short days of the year, the long nights. So for Yule and Hanukkah and Advent and Christmas, people have lit candles and bonfires and temple lanterns. We have gathered to call for the light. We light our chalice today. Our sacred flame goes forth, wisdom brought to life, guide us. With the light of hope, the warmth of love, the beacon of purpose, because we are all afraid of the dark, let there be light. Let us together join in reciting our covenant, which you can find right here in your order of service. Print it right out there. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is its sacrament. The service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace and respect and understanding, refuge and freedom. Serve our fellows and humankind to the end that all souls go together in harmony. Thus do we covenant with each other and our God, whenever name we worship. Let us sing. Deck the Hall, number 235 in the gray hymnal. Number 235, Deck the Hall with boughs of holly.
This morning we have more of a poem for the whole congregation, and this is The Refugees by Anne Weems. Every rustle of the wind, every sigh from the child sent terror through his chest. Was this the way? Even the stars had been unkind, had hidden themselves in the ink of night so the man could not read their way. Only the wind, was it enough? Only the wind and his innate sense of direction. What kind of cruel judgment would that be, to wander in circles through the night, or to safely make their way to the border only to find the authorities waiting for them? He glanced at the young woman, his bride, no more than a child herself. She nuzzled the newborn, kissing his neck. She looked up and caught his eye and smiled. Oh, how the homelessness had taken its toll on her. Her eyes were red, her young face was lined, her lovely hair matted from inattention, her clothes stained from milk and baby, her hands chapped from the raw wind of winter. She'd hardly had time to recover from childbirth when word had come that they were hunted, and they fled with only a little bread and the remaining wine and a very small portion of cheese. Suddenly the child began to make small noises. The man drew his breath in sharply. The woman quietly put the child to rest. Fear, long, dread-filled moments. Huddled, the family stood still in the long silence. At last the man breathed deeply again, reassured that they had not been heard, and into the night continued Mary, Joseph, and the babe.
This is the time in our service when we lift up the generosity of all of you, members and friends and visitors. We need your pledges and gifts to keep our doors open and our programs vibrant. For those of you participating remotely, you may contribute via PayPal or mail your contribution to the church. There'll be more details in the Zoom chat. As a reminder, our Faith in Action collection this month is for Father Bills and Mainspring. We're very grateful for your gifts. Thank you very much.
This reflection and prayer was written by Quinn Caldwell. If you came to this place expecting a tame story, you came to the wrong place. If you came for a story that does not threaten you, you came for a different story than the one we tell. If you came to hear of the coming of the God who only showed up so you could have a nice day with your loved ones, then you came for a God we do not worship here. For even a regular baby is not a tame thing. And goodness that cannot threaten complacency is evil is not much good at all. And a God who would choose to give up power and invincibility to become an infant certainly didn't do it just so we could have dinner. But if you came because you think that unwed teenage mothers are some of the strongest people in the world, if you came because you think that the kind of people who work third shift, doing stuff you'd rather not do, might attract an angel's attention before someone else, snoring comfortably in their bed, if you came because you think there are wise people to be found among undocumented travelers from far lands and that they might be able to show you God, if you came to hear a story of tyrants trembling while heaven comes to peasants, if you came because you believe that God loves the animals as much as the people, and so made them the first witnesses to the saving of the world, if you came for a story of reversals that might end up reversing you, if you came for a tale of adventure and bravery where strong and gentle people win, and the powerful and violent go down to dust, where the rich lose their money but find their lives and the poor are raised up like kings, if you came to be reminded that God or that the universe loves you too much to leave you unchanged, if you came for salvation and not safety, then, my friends, you are in the right place. And whatever our relationship to the Christmas story is, we can reflect on these interpretations of it as we finish the season of Advent and draw near to Christmas Eve together. So we will just spend a few moments together reflecting on those reversals.
Every religious community has its high holidays, those special days when the institution has a lot of things going on, a lot of busyness, when the faithful are all involved in community rituals. Now, Unitarian Universalists like to say they celebrate many holidays, many traditions, but observers will attest that there's one holiday that stands out, and that holiday is Christmas. Now, to the outside observer, this may seem strange. After all, Unitarian Universalists don't identify as Christian. In fact, some of our fellow religious liberals pride themselves on debunking Christian mythology. And those among us who do consider themselves Christian don't take the nativity stories literally. In fact, most of us, Christian and humanist and Buddhist and all Unitarian Universalists, see these stories as wonderful fictions, beautiful legends that grew out of the earliest Christian imagination. Let's look at some history. First, the earliest Christians did not celebrate the birth of Jesus. Jews don't celebrate birthdays in those days, by the way. If you look in the Hebrew scriptures and the Christian scriptures, there is no mention of anybody having a birthday except Pharaoh and Herod. That should tell you something. Nobody had a birthday except tyrants. So the high mass celebration of the Nativity came after the church had become the official religion of the Roman Empire. Scheduled at the time of the Roman holiday, the Victory of the Sun, the big winter festival. From the 4th century to the 15th century, Christmas evolved in Western Europe as a midnight mass. a celebration in the Roman Catholic Church at midnight. And there was a continuation of the traditions of revelry associated with pre-Christian winter solstice festivals. Such traditions as gift-giving, outdoor singing came to us from the ancient Roman holiday of the Victory of the Sun. Candle lighting, mistletoe, pine wreaths came to us from the Germans. The Yuletide, the ancient non-Christian German midwinter festival. In Ireland, England, France, Spain, all over Europe, heavy drinking and orgies and license for rape were associated with the Christmas crowds that went out on the street and sang carols. This time to be watchful, time to keep the children in, watch them. Then came the Protestant Reformation and its attempt to purify Christianity of all corruption. One of the corruptions targeted was Christmas. Not a biblical holiday, the Reformers declared. Christmas was a pagan holiday with the Catholics that kept more proof if you needed any more proof of Catholic corruption. So the Protestants tried to do away with Christmas. It is important to remember that the colonies that became the United States of America were settled by Protestants who did not celebrate Christmas. In the southern colonies, the Anglicans had parties at Christmas time, but it wasn't a big religious festival. In the northern colonies, the people who settled here were Quaker, Presbyterian, Baptist, Congregational, serious Protestants, not like those Anglicans. People caught celebrating the holiday could be banished from the colony, fined, put in the stocks. It was out of this background, in the context of a revolution, the American Revolution, that both Unitarian and Universalists emerged. Free religion, not bound by creed, open to the inspiration of the Bible, but not bound by it. Given that, it is not surprising that Unitarians took a fresh look at Christmas and made significant innovations. We are the group that most created the contemporary celebration of Christmas in the United States. In the years after the American independence in cities in New York and Boston, Christmas parties that were so popular that especially young people, that the Unitarians saw the reassertion of what they called the midwinter festivals without any religious support, except among the Roman Catholics and Anglicans, who were a tiny minority. A Harvard professor, a Unitarian named Charles Follen, a refugee from Germany, in 1832 gave a party with the German theme Yuletide and introduced a decorated evergreen tree, the first seen in the Americas, as the centerpiece of his party. Christmas trees soon became the fashion in New England, first among the Unitarians, then the Congregationalists and the Episcopalians. Christmas trees were all over. In 15 years, it was like a fad, I guess you could call it. But no, a fad that kind of lasted. Unitarian Universalists did far more than contribute to the festive mood than popular wintertime parties. Unitarian Universalists helped shape a new religious meaning to the festival, a new religious meaning to the festival. Not only did the Unitarians in New England, who were very concerned with their co-religionists across the pond, the Unitarians in England were engaged in similar work, and they were actually corresponding, saying, what are we going to do? In 1843, a struggling young English writer published a story that became the most popular Christmas story both in the United Kingdom and North America. Charles Dickens had grown up poor, very poor, and he made much effort. He achieved a token of success as a writer. In the process of his struggles, he became aware of the disparity between rich and poor and the subsequent role played by the education system, the courts, the press, the established church, subservient to what he considered to be a hypocritical and greedy, wealthy class. Dickens, the young radical, left the Church of England with a hearty bah humbug to Orthodox religion, and after several years searching, he became a Unitarian at London's Essex Chapel. In Unitarianism, he found a religion that proclaimed God's love, a religion that believed in the potential of everyone to be more genuinely helpful. Now, so let us look at what that book that revolutionized our idea of Christmas, the Christmas Carol, and look especially at the character of Ebenezer Scrooge. Dickens does not create a one-dimensional straw villain. Scrooge's selfishness, according to Dickens, is a product of childhood fears, loneliness, insecurity. A Christmas Carol is a story of Scrooge's redemption. And what a Unitarian story of salvation it is. If you talk about the doctrine of salvation, Scrooge is the Unitarian idea of how salvation takes place. The unlikely agents of the transformation are those wonderful literary inventions of Dickens, Marley's ghost and the three spirits. The ghost of Jacob Marley comes to Scrooge dragging long chains, forged, he says, in his lifetime, forged in his lifetime. His fate after death is to search for the caring, helpful Marley who could have been. He warns Scrooge that if he doesn't heed the message, the fate will befall him. In his sleep, Scrooge is visited by the ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, and the ghost of Christmas yet to be. And these characters lead Scrooge on a journey of self-discovery. Through this journey, he comes to understand himself. He sees the lonely boy he was, his yearning for love and approval of his family, a yearning he never fulfilled. He sees that many people who reached out to him and how in his hurt, he rejected the people that were trying to reach him. He refused to be open to them. Spirit shows Scrooge how people enjoy Christmas, and most of what they seem to enjoy for Dickens is the parties and the candles and the singing together, but also caring for one another. The Spirit shows Scrooge how people enjoy Christmas, humble people, people with few resources, isolated people enjoying the simple joy of this festive time. The awakened Scrooge comes to realize he can change his life. The redeemed Scrooge understands that to be genuinely human, he must affirm the worth of others and affirm himself. In a sense, it's be a Unitarian. Christmas Carol is a story of the renewal of the human spirit. Its power comes from just how much of himself Dickens puts into the characters. So in a way, what he's put into his characters reflects what Dickens experiences as a person. Dickens, like Scrooge, was a lonely child. His sister was the love of his childhood, the one who cared for him. And like Tiny Tim, the disabled child of the Crockett family, Dickens' sister had a disabled child who Dickens loved through the process of his long dying. Dickens had a bitter and angry with the world and had found love and caring in Essex Street Chapel. Dickens also shows us the suffering of Tiny Tim and other impoverished children, awakened Scrooge's conscience, and seeing his own childhood pain, the choices he made with that pain, all of which have a powerful role in Scrooge seeing himself as a person who can make a difference. But Dickens isn't just talking about Tiny Tim. Millions of children were neglected in early industrial society. The Unitarians of that generation were engaged in awakening to save the children. It was the biggest social justice cause of the Unitarians, both in North America and in England, in the first 3 decades of the 19th century. And the Christmas carols greeted with tremendous popularity. Dickens comes to North America, comes to Boston, in fact, and is toured by the Unitarians from church to church and visits with William Ellery Channing. Christmas Carol functions as a story that can symbolize the theology with its new symbol on the child, Tiny Tim, who with that other baby born in poverty, Jesus, could embody for millions this new message of caring and how we need to nurture children. A revolution in world outlook, revisioning of Christmas, suddenly becomes child-centered. Many other Unitarians have contributed to the transformation of Christmas. Too many to mention by name. I could, but Longfellow and there's just dozens of examples. But I'm going to single out one contribution because it had such an impact. Edmund Hamilton Sears, the Unitarian minister in Wayland, Massachusetts, was recovering from a mental breakdown. He had been the minister of a much larger church in nearby Lancaster. But Sears believed that religion had ethical consequences and that the purpose of being a minister was to speak out against injustice. And the United States had declared war on Mexico in 1846. And like many Unitarian ministers, Sears denounced the war as a war of aggression and spoke out against it over and over again to the point that the town of Lancaster got angry at him and wrote editorials in the paper about him being a radical minister. The resulting controversy in his parish led to his emotional collapse. He left Lancaster to be welcomed back with love and affection to Wayland, where he had been ordained. In December 1848, the word spread around the village that the minister had written a new Christmas carol and wanted to try it out. Congregants headed for Sears's house. One member brought a spinet, another brought a fiddle, and there was to be musical instruments. And they sang, "It Came Upon a Midnight Clear." The carol was a major departure from Christmas music, way different than Christmas music. It forged a new theme for the holiday, one that we all take for granted, I think, today. We've all heard the expression, peace on earth, goodwill to all people. So often that this season of the year we may assume it has always been part of the Christmas theme. But in fact, Sears' song that popularized those words in Luke came into a Christmas slogan of general usage was never heard of. Sears' lyrics were such a controversial departure in the direction of social commentary. Nobody had heard it in 1848, didn't know it was about the war against Mexico. They heard it. And listen to some of the lyrics when we sing it soon. It angered religious conservatives. They hated it. They were so angry. Listen to the words of the carol we sing so often. We who fight the wars hear not the love song that they bring. Oh, hush the noise of battle's strife and hear the angels sing. In the midst of the invasion of Mexico, this was clearly an intentional anti-war protest song. Edmund Sears, the Pete Seeger of his generation, it was so controversial that the New Yorker magazine wrote the following about the popular carol. This is just the kind of thing that we can expect from those Unitarians. Dickens, Sears, Longfellow, and others wrote stories, poetry, music, drama, song, and all with a theme that Christmas was a symbol of love, peace, goodwill, and adoption of children, especially poor children, outreach to poor children. That millions of others have come to know, all these efforts help redefine the holiday, redefine it from effort where before the Unitarian efforts, Christmas had been the formal high mass to celebrate the birth of the Savior God, time for popular holidays, heavy drinking, singing in the street. But after these liberal religious efforts, a new Christmas story began to take shape. The holiday theme of peace, outreach to children, kindness in human affairs. Macy's and the shopping stuff came 50 years later. Unitarians such as Sears and Dickens were critical of private salvation religion. Both Sears and Dickens, and for the Unitarians of that generation that were also part of this redefinition, religion had social consequences. It wasn't a private thing. And thus, to truly celebrate the birth of Jesus, they believe we must affirm and promote the ethical teachings of his ministry, what Jesus stood for. Consider the little children, he said, which they summarize as working for peace and love of one's fellow human beings. Yes, contemporary religious liberals have good reason to celebrate Christmas. Christmas reminds us in story and song that we are called to celebrate the song the angels sing, peace on earth, goodwill toward all. And let us sing. Let us sing. It came upon a midnight clear, 244. And imagine some general in the army hearing this song as they halls of Montezuma. Now hear my benediction. When you are in doubt, be still and wait. When doubt no longer exists for you, then go forward with courage. So long as the mists envelop you, be still. Be still until the sunlight pours through and dispels the mist, as it surely will. Then act with courage, and still then act with courage. Go in peace, and may the wind be on your back. White Eagle. Ponca.
Just wanted to say we've been talking about possible coffee house in the spring, so that's been exciting, and it brought to mind this great song that I ordinarily would sing at a coffee house, but it is a Yuletide tune, so I hope you enjoy it. If you may all know it, some of you may not, but it's called Cool Yule. From Coney Island to the Sunset Strip, somebody's gonna make a happy trip tonight while the moon is bright. He's gonna have a bag of crazy toys to give the grown-ups and the girls and boys. So dig, Santa comes on big. He'll come a-calling when it snows the most. He'll get with all your cats are sleeping warm as toast. And you're gonna flip when old Saint Nick plays a lick on a peppermint stick. He'll come a-flying from a higher place and fill the stockings by the fireplace. So you'll have a Yule that's cool. From a higher place and fill the stockings by the fireplace. So you'll